All right, friends, we are live. I think I've been having some issues getting my audio connected, so um, that's okay. We got it figured out now at the last minute, and so we're going to go ahead and get started. There's no organization to this tonight. Basically, if you've looked at the thumbnail, um, you know that we're going to talk about the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court decision today regarding Richard Glossip. Um, as everyone that's familiar with the channel here for the last, I don't know, 4+ years that I've had the channel, you know that we cover Richard Glossip whenever there's any news. So Rick is actually the one who sent me this information today because I hadn't seen it, and so I've been busy editing the video for Sunday's show, and so I had pretty much just not even been there, Cherie. I had just pretty much not even been even looking at anything outside of my editing software. So Rick sent this information to me this morning in Discord. I was freaked out. Like, listen, I was already having an emotional day. I was bawling because before that, he had sent me a beautiful, amazing, to me, harmony of three young people singing Take Me Home Country Roads, which a 2-year-old could be singing that song and it would just invoke very powerful memories for me and make me very emotional. And so I hesitated to listen to it when Rick sent it to me this morning because I knew it was going to make me teary-eyed. I knew it was going to make me emotional. But I listened to it after I thought, okay, I've calmed down. It's not in my head at that moment. So I turned it on and started listening to it. And I was literally like my 8th time through listening to it, bawling, like tears running down my face with the emotion that this song brings up in me. And then he sent me that information about this Supreme Court decision. And I'm telling you, I have just been a freaking mess since then. So Rick has been trying to, do more searching today. Thank goodness. Cherie, hello and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Happy to be here. It's a wonderful day.
It really is. It really is. It's extremely great news. Under your scars, I know how much you've also been really dedicated to Richard's case as well. I don't really know where to start. It is great news. I don't really know where to start. Cherie and I both have been kind of following this case, like I said, from the beginning. Well, not from the beginning, but since the beginning of my channel, our channel. So when I finally when I discovered wrongful convictions as the place I wanted to kind of land and dedicate my, I don't know, service or my time to. It started with Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey cases, and then several years into that, we discovered Daniel's case, and I've pretty much been like married to Daniel's case since then. But also with all of the research and stuff that we've been doing, that Cherie and I've been doing in Oklahoma, generally speaking, as far as wrongful convictions and criminally corrupt systems go, we came upon Julius Jones' case, and then also Richard Glossip's case. But Julius Jones, I don't know who's familiar and who isn't, but he was also on death row, and eventually, well, I shouldn't say finally, because there's still many opinions out there, but his case was eventually commuted to life in prison without parole from death row. And so I know there's still a huge campaign from his supporters on X and those places. But Richard Glossip's case has just been a roller coaster of emotions. I can't even imagine what the poor man has gone through. I believe, I believe that he's innocent. Uh, but the case has been so tainted from the very beginning that it's really hard for somebody who's not familiar with the case. It's going to be really difficult to come into it and say, oh yeah, he's probably is guilty of, because there's a lot of lies and I think Brady violations personally.
Oh, yeah, think
Yeah.
Have you seen
Right.
Brady violations, witness intimidation, coercion.
All the things, right? Yeah.
Have you seen the documentary on Prime, Rick?
Yes, I have.
I was going to say that if anybody who hasn't, that's a good place to go.
Yeah, it is. It's older now. I bought it when when it was still not free on Prime. I bought it because I know Cherie and I together have watched it several times, or at least a couple times, and I've watched it myself, a couple times because it's so fascinating, and it's pretty old, the documentary. So the information is old. In fact, there's nothing in that documentary from I don't even know what year, but nothing about what's gone on in the last probably 5 years or so, I would say.
At least
Possibly.
that, yeah.
Yeah, at least.
The best part in that is watching. Well, it made me angry at the time watching Prater blow his top. But now, just imagine how he's blowing his top hearing this.
I'm wondering if he's stroked out today. I mean, I'm not going to wish ill on anyone, if he did, that's his own fault. uh, David Prater was a horrible, almost think he was worse than Bob Macy as a Oklahoma as the Oklahoma DA. He was awful, awful human. So yeah, him stroking out, blowing up like he did. I mean, David Prater was just always unprofessional anyway, and so angry. Like I never ever really saw smiles on David Prater's face. He was just always seemed to be so angry in every interview I ever watched him in or anything. And so, yeah, he's probably in a bad mood today. I would agree, Cherie.
And it's interesting that, 2 decisions from the Supreme Court slapping down Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals in one term, I guess they call it. And they started in Oklahoma County.
Well, this is twice on the same case.
Yeah, just on the same case. But then also, Kurt covered I can't remember her name now, a murder for hire case that happened in, I think it was 2001 or something like that.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, and it was a murder for hire case, and I believe the woman hired somebody to murder her husband. I'm not in disagreement with that, but there was still corruption that took place in her trial, and I don't care who you are, what you've done, what you're guilty of, what people think you're guilty of. Everybody still has that that right. That's what is it? Sixth Amendment right to fair. And I'm not good with the amendment numbers, but so give the person their trial that they deserve to have, that's afforded to them, but do it clean. Don't be dirty and foul. And I know other cities and counties and states have a problem too with corrupt legal systems, but I think just because we've been so focused on Oklahoma in the last 5 years, that's kind of where we see a ton of it. So, it's we've researched and found so much evidence of horrible corruption from all the way from the DA to the prosecutors to the crime lab analysts in Oklahoma City. So Richard Glossip
and the prior attorney general.
and yeah, well,
The list goes on.
Yeah. I mean, they're all just dirty. They're so dirty. There's not enough rainstorms to wash away the filth in Oklahoma. It's just really sad, and I feel really bad when I say that. I know a lot of people from Oklahoma. I have family who still lives in Oklahoma, so it's not the state. It's not the land itself. It's just some of the people that are so corrupt. Unfortunately, those corrupt people are powerful enough that it really does put a huge stain on the entire state. Unfortunately, so excuse me. So anyway, like I said, there is no organization to this whatsoever. I'm kind of Rick has been, again, another case that Rick and Cherie and I have been following independent of each other. I learned today is something that Rick also, another case that Rick also has in common with us. So he's been following the case. Rick, I'll let you talk about it.
I started digging into it when I saw the Dr. Phil episode. That's when I started digging into it.
So you're fairly new.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, I can't even imagine what,
I never watched Dr. Phil.
I don't like Dr. Phil personally.
And well, a lot of people don't. I didn't start paying attention to him until Katrina. When I was working in the Astrodome on Katrina relief, he came in and spent, 15, 16 hours with the refugees, talking to them and helping them deal with stuff. And after all that time with the refugees, instead of leaving, he went back to the private area that the staff that was working there had, where we could go and decompress from the refugees and spend another 4 hours there with us, talking to us about how we were handling everything. And that's when I started paying attention to him.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, there was a period of time when for me, I used to watch him, and then the more I watched him over the years, the more I felt like he has a lot of knowledge and experience and degrees, and he knows what he's talking about. I get that. But I got to a point where I felt like he thought he was the only one who had all those things. That was just my interpretation, my feeling. And so I quit watching, but go ahead, Rick.
He has a lot of experience on the criminal, on the courtroom side of it, too. That show that Michael Weatherly did when he left NCIS, Bull, that's based on Dr. Phil before he was on Oprah Show and became big on Oprah Show. He used to be a psychologist that consulted on juries.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until probably the last, I don't know, maybe 3 years or so, that he has all of that, also behind him. I don't know. I just felt like he got cocky at some point. I don't feel like he's cocky like that now. The last, I don't know, maybe year or so, I haven't really felt that way. But there came a period in time, for quite some time, where I felt like he was kind of cocky. Again, those are just my judgments that, whatever. But so yeah, but when he came to advocate for Richard Glossip, I was like, wait a minute. because sometimes when you're covering these cases and you're advocating for an individual for whatever the situation is, um, you kind of I lost my train of thought. Surprise. Anyway, I did. I was. Oh, you kind of feel. I know what I was going to say. I kind of feel like sometimes we're in this little bubble of wrongful convictions. You know, when vidIQ is telling me to, search other content creators in your niche who are doing the same kind of content, so that and get ideas from them. Blah blah blah. There aren't any. There aren't other content creators doing strictly wrongful conviction content
No,
that I
there's
know of.
not. Steve Lato will do an episode on his channel every now and then. He's real good friends with some of the lawyers on Institute for Justice. Who's the guy in West Virginia that plays the banjo? He normally does civil rights violation episodes with interactions with police, but he's done some wrongful conviction ones. There's not a whole lot of them.
There's not a lot that aren't so though. And I love Steve Lato. I think I love his form and everything that he does. I always find his content interesting. Is it the civil rights lawyer that
That might be the name of his channel. Yeah.
You sent me a video. You shared a video with me about a month or so ago about a wrongful arrest. I think we're talking about the same guy. He's also really good. So here's the difference. The people that I do see covering wrongful convictions are usually attorneys, and they're not doing a lot of it. They're doing snippets of a thing here or there. But to do what we're trying to do with Daniel's case, it's practically unheard of. So, at least from what I've been trying to research. So when I get those suggestions from vidIQ to search other creators in my niche, I'm like, screw you guys. There are maybe a handful, but when I search them using keywords and stuff, I'm not finding them. So maybe we are the start of something that there should be more attention brought to. I realize there's millions of other cases that are going on in the country that people need to pay attention to, but there are other cases like Daniel's case, for instance, and Richard Glossip's case that are there. These people are sitting in prisons, rotting and dying in these prisons. Richard Glossip has been to the death chamber. He's had, if I'm not mistaken, Richard Glossip has had 3 last meals served to him. That's how
4, yeah.
That's how many times he's been that close to being executed. The mind fuck that must be on someone.
Oh, it's psychological torture.
Yeah, I can't even comprehend it.
What they have done to him with it going up to that point and then backing off of it, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad they backed off of it, is, I don't want to bring this up in a political way, but video came out from the prisoner exchange with between Hamas and Israel over the weekend, where the people from Hamas had a couple of the Israelis that they are still holding prisoner in a van and drove them to the area of the prisoner exchange and opened the door of the van so they could watch some of the Israelis going home, and then shut the door and took them back to captivity. It's that kind of mental torture.
Yeah, I did see that, and I remember I could only watch it very, very, very briefly, like seconds, because I couldn't handle watching it. I couldn't handle watching the torture that I felt like was being, you know, done to the hostages. And yeah, it is psychological mind fucking on a level that just, in America, you know, as far as you know, Richard Glossip's case is concerned. Um, and you know, we've covered, I have several videos. I actually need to put all of the Glossip videos into a playlist. But we've done several videos, you know, about Richard Glossip whenever something big has happened, or there's been any movement whatsoever in his case. So, you know, and you know, we've shared links in those other videos, and uh, there's just, you know, there's so much information about his case. When you really, honestly, it's your best bet, if you're unfamiliar with Richard Glossip's case, is to watch. It's only four parts, and they're only at 1 hour long episodes of Killing Richard Glossip. And is it Tom Berenger, Cherie? I think I got the first name right. That the producer or of Glossip's case of Killing Richard Glossip.
Yeah, that was Tom Berenger.
Tom Berenger. He also did a documentary for, I think it was for HBO, regarding the West Memphis Three.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, you know, that caught our attention too. We're like, well, now, you know, he did pretty good on that. Let's check. But watching Killing Richard Glossip was like, I knew about the case before that, but it was so much information. But in that document, in that mini doc, there is a couple, I don't know how many, where clips that are shown of the detectives questioning Justin Sneed and questioning Richard Glossip. And these are recorded interrogation videos, bad, you know, really poorly done, but enough that you can hear. We used to have these names memorized, and now he's dead. I think this one's dead now, but you can hear these detectives coercing Justin Sneed into not naming just anyone, but into naming Richard Glossip. And why Justin Sneed's already confessed to being the one who actually wielded the murder weapon and killed Barry Van Treese. That's a given.
Yeah, he never hit it.
No, but that wasn't enough for the detectives. There is, so Under Your Scars had a gentleman reach out to her quite some time ago and had asked her, I think she's going to have to correct me in the chat, but asked her, I think, to see if somehow my channel came up, and somehow he, you know, was interested in seeing if I would cover Richard's case. And so this guy, it wasn't just some guy. It was actually the original attorney in the first trial for Richard Glossip. Now, we can all talk about what a unqualified man attorney he was, because he was, and he admits that. He freely admitted to me that he was completely unqualified, unprepared, and unable to prepare because he wasn't getting all the information. But he and I corresponded for quite some time, actually, and I think his first name was Wayne. I can't. He's in Killing Richard Glossip. He's in that documentary. Anyway, he and I communicated for a little while, and I told him, I said, I really can't dedicate my channel to Richard's case, but I will continue to cover everything that happens, as it happens. Um, and he was grateful for that. But even though he was unable to do anything to help Richard during that first trial, he still believes wholly and fully in Richard's innocence, and he did then. But he gave me some information, and I think it's on an external hard drive I have packed away somewhere. Gave me a bunch of information that I know Cherie and I read through it together, and we talked about it and lamented, like trying to and saying, "Oh my God!" The point is, why? Okay, so why were these detectives so determined to pin Richard Glossip as an accessory? Because they were determined. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to do anything with Richard Glossip. Justin Sneed admitted to murdering Barry Van Treese, but they still had to go for Richard Glossip. And so your logical, common sense mind says, why? What would be the purpose? Some of the information, I'm going to have to do another live stream at some point after I can find the hard drive, but some of the information that Wayne, his last name starts with an F. Cherie, I don't know if you're still here or not, but do you remember? Or Under Your Scars, can you remember his last name? Anyway, it's easy enough to look up and find out. But he, as Cherie and I were reading through this, it's been a couple of years ago now, we were like, okay, so there was some protection that might have been needed. In the video, the documentary, there is a investigator. Sometimes I use that word loosely, but that was rather prominent in many, I think all of the episodes, or at least several of the episodes. And Fauneroy, yes. Thank you, Cherie. The information that I got from this attorney, from Wayne, the first attorney, you have to scratch your head and say, aha, was there protection? Was OKC trying to protect this investigator that was working on the Glossip, on the Van Treese murder? I've planted a seed now for everyone and just kind of leaving you all hanging because I don't have the information in front of me right at this moment. But there was definitely some crazy information that made me think, okay, it's not just about these investigators really believing that Richard Glossip was an accessory or that he had hired Justin Sneed to do this. It's not that at all. And let me just stop myself right here and say to the Van Treese family, not that you'll ever hear what we're doing right now, but they lost a husband, father, brother, family member, somebody very dear to them in their life. And that's not lost on me. And I'm not saying that Van Treese was tied to anything that was nefarious. Just saying that I believe there's definitely a argument to be made that OKC may have been trying to protect somebody from Richard Glossip, and knowledge that they thought he might have, or that they knew he had. I don't really know. That's kind of what I think. And when the state is willing to continue to try somebody for murder, accessory to murder, and keep that person on death row, attempting 3 times to execute him all these years later, Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's just me, but there's something to that. Now, the Supreme Court today has said in their finding, in their decision, Richard Glossip did not get a fair trial, and the Supreme Court, I don't think, said these words, but I know enough about law and some of the language that basically, when you're saying that evidence is withheld from a defendant, you're basically saying to me, those are that there were Brady violations in the trial, in the case.
Okay, well, let's back up a minute because there's some information that some people listening may not know. Evidence was held back in the first trial. That's the one that got thrown out by the Supreme Court in 2015. I think that's when that decision was
I think it
June
was 15.
2015.
I think so.
Now, in some of the supplemental reports from the Reid investigations, I don't know if the district attorney ordered it before that Supreme Court decision or after that Supreme Court decision. But a bunch of that evidence that was withheld was ordered destroyed by Prater. In fact, the Reid investigation, they talked to officers that worked in evidence and they went, yeah, that never happened before. And in a capital case, it violates the regulation and memorandum of understanding we have for retaining the evidence.
Yes.
And now we'll never know what that evidence was or what was in there because it was withheld for the first trial and destroyed before the second trial in 2004.
Yes. Destroyed. Yep. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Cherie and I, during some research way back, learned that Joyce Gilchrist, who they affectionately recalled Black Magic in the OKC crime lab and whatnot, yes, I wanted to say hello, Jerome. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hello from your beautiful land in Belgium. Never been there. I hear it's a really fascinating place to visit, though. But so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was alluded to that Joyce Gilchrist, aka Black Magic, had something to do with, excuse me, with destroying that evidence or disappearing that evidence, because that was something that she had been proven over years that she had actually done. And she was the one who was involved in any of the forensic testing that was done in the Glossip case. Me trailing off again. To me, it's a huge deal that the ADA who tried Richard Glossip in the first trial, Fern Smith, I believe her name is, she's on the Brady list.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big deal to me. That's a huge fucking deal. If you're on the Brady list, you don't have a lot of credibility with me or most people that I know at that point. So, yes, Rick's right. That there is evidence now that will never be known or seen or be able to be tested. I think it was box number 7, I think is how it's referred to.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's box 7. And I
think
that might.
The one thing we do know that was in the box, but we don't know actually what it would have shown, was the receipt book that Mr. Vaness carried around with him with the money in his car.
Right. Ventries. Barry
Or
Ventries.
Ventries.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And why does that matter, Rick? Tell the people why that matters.
Because they claimed that he hired Sneed to do it by splitting the cash that was on hand between the two of them. Well, how do you prove that the cash that they were splitting was the amount that Van Nys had on him at the time? You look in the receipt book that he kept to
Yes.
see how much he had. The only people that know what's in that book are the detectives, the district attorney, and Mr. Van Nys, who of course can't speak.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Instead, they introduced evidence from his wife, who did basically anybody that's in accounting a business projection of receipts that might come in over a certain period of time based on averages, and use that as the amount of money that he would have had on him at the time.
Right.
They never mentioned anything that Van Nys himself paid out of that cash that he had on him, which he recorded in those receipt books.
Yep. Also, a forensic accountant, I believe is what she was called, broke
No,
down.
they when Reed investigated, he mentioned a forensic accountant. He said, and the Reed investigation said, any forensic accountant would have known that was bad accounting practices for the purpose of evidence in court. A forensic accountant never actually looked at any of it. The
No.
Donna who's mentioned in there is his wife.
Right. No, I'm talking about a forensic accountant that went through and broke down the how the wife's accounting was wholly inaccurate. And I'm not. This isn't me trying to badmouth her. I'm not saying that his wife was in any way nefarious in her accounting at all.
I don't think she
But
was. I think she
no,
did what she had done for him the entire time he was running
right?
the business. Like,
Yeah,
oh, when he has me do accounting, this is what he has me
this is
do.
right. And Cherie might have to, or Rick, you might know, but I can't remember if this accountant was in Killing Richard Glossip. I don't think so. I think this was, I think the forensic accountant I'm speaking of did her analysis within the last several years.
I believe she's the forensic accountant that the Reed investigation
The
hired.
Reed investigator, yeah, Reed
Yeah.
investigation. Um, Rick, do you want to?
What's his name?
It's a
Stan.
lady.
No. The investigator that hired her. That's
Oh,
with Reed. Stan Perry.
do you want to explain? Because I have us all over the place, so scattered. Do you want to explain the Reed investigation and how that came about, Rick?
The Reed
Or if you remember,
Yeah, it was. The two main ones were Representative McDougal and Humphrey.
J.J. Humphrey, yes. Yep.
And I can't remember which governor it was. He's the one that issued the stay to allow for more investigation. Um, Basically, there were 35 lawmakers in Oklahoma that caught wind of what was going on and went, yeah, that doesn't sound anywhere near kosher, and this really needs to be investigated independently. And we call them the Reed investigation. It was a law firm, an
It
outside
was a
law
law
firm,
firm. Yes.
was brought on as a, for want of a better term, special counsel to investigate all this. Look them
Independent.
up. Independent, not special, independent.
Well, yeah.
Do you have the link to where they've posted everything about their investigation on this case? You might want to drop that. Go through everything, and there's pages and pages of it. And you can actually find the PDFs of all of their reports of their investigation on all this. And the amount of stuff that they found is insane.
Right.
Uh,
You know,
Garcia, what's Ms. Garcia's first name?
uh, I can't, I don't know. I can't think.
She saw a story about him on the national news. It was about the 2015 dismissal when the whole execution process in Oklahoma was put on hold, because that was the 2015 decision from the Supreme Court was because
The moratorium on
because of the moratorium, because of the method that they were using.
right, the drugs that we're using in the lethal injection.
Well, this lady who was living in Texas at the time saw a national news story about this, and she recognized Sneed. They put Sneed's picture up, and she recognized him. And she was actually staying in that hotel at the time it happened. And the interview that I saw with her, she tried to tell the cops that were investigating then, hey, look, the manager in the office doesn't have anything to do with this. This is
Right.
this guy you got that did it. Here's the problems that all of us that have been staying here have had for him. This guy was using a girl to lure men into a hotel room and then robbing them. The guy that killed Van Ness, the Sneak guy. And the police basically told her and the other girls that were staying in the hotel with her, if you don't shut up, we're going to arrest you. And continued to go after Richard.
Yes.
Another witness, Scott, I can't remember if Scott was his first name or his last name. It's his last name. Michael? I want to say Michael.
Your names, your recall with names is much better than mine in this case.
Yeah, I want to
because
say his first name was Michael, but he had actually been in jail with Sneed, where Sneed bragged about, yeah, I
yes.
pinned it on this guy and he's getting the death penalty and I get to live.
Yeah. Yep,
Well, the guy got
exactly.
out of jail and was on probation and had to do community service, and, you know, got in a car wreck and couldn't do the community service until he healed. Somehow or another, when he started talking, Prater had the police in the city he lived in a different county get a warrant for probation violation for not doing the community service as regularly scheduled. Arrested him, took him to an interrogation room at the police department in the town this was in the other county. Who walks in to interrogate him? Prater and one of Prater's investigators. This district, Oklahoma County District Attorney, arranged for a witness to be arrested for not doing community service, and then traveled from Oklahoma County to this other county, and I cannot remember what county it is, and interrogated that witness with an investigator. And at least according to Michael Scott, with what he told the Reed investigation, they did it for the sole purpose. The district attorney Prater knew what prescription medications Mr. Scott's mother was taking when he interrogated him. That's a blatant, not only do we know everything about you, we know everything about your mother. And if we can find that information out, what else can we do to her? That is blatant witness intimidation and tampering.
Yes. By the DA from the
By
DA.
the district attorney. Yeah, by the district attorney.
And we're not surprised by that at all, Cherie and I, and probably Under Your Scars probably as well. We're not surprised at all by that. I dropped a link in the chat from the Reed Smith website. I didn't look. It just is titled Reed Smith Investigation into the Glossip Death Row Case Raises Grave Concerns. And that was published on June 15th, like you said, of 2022, Rick. So I would imagine that their actual, I don't know, we can look and see if they're, I mean, I guess I could,
that's the one.
There's a copy of the report. Okay.
Yeah, if you go through the Reed Smith stuff, there's not only a copy of that report, but there are other pages that are on there that if you,
I'll share the screen here really quick.
I'm trying to find how to get to. Let me pull it up on my bookmarks.
I accidentally posted the StreamYard link instead.
I saw that. As long as we don't get any crazy hat crocheting people on here, I'm good. So here's the website that I'm referring to.
Oh, no. It's the deathpenaltyinfo.org that I'm thinking of that has the list that you can scroll through and open updates that were posted at different times.
I think I put that in the chat as well.
And
yeah, that's also in the chat. Oh, thank you, Liam. Liam's dropping some links too. Thank you so much.
June, the 9 August 2022 update, and I'll let me drop that in the private chat in StreamYard. And
okay, you should be able to share it, Rick. Oh, that reminds me. Go ahead, Rick. Sorry.
Can I share it in the?
You should be able to share it, I think.
He's not blue, so I think you have to do something to make him.
Okay, yeah. Let me.
Blue.
I do have to do something. I tried to do it earlier, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't let me, or I couldn't find his name to make him blue.
Yeah, it actually doesn't create a link, but it posted the text in there of the link. At least on my screen, it did.
Let me see if I can add you as a.
If you open that one that I just put in there, if everybody can see it, it's got 2022/08 in the middle of it. That one has the PDFs for the supplemental reports that the Reed investigation did.
Okay, and I have that pulled. Oh, I'm not sharing that. Let me share that. Oh, my brain is I'm telling you guys, my brain has been on overload today. Let me show the.
Liam, I've been sitting here racking my brain trying to remember where I read that. I think it was in one of the Reed investigation reports, but I can't remember which one, whether it was the primary or the supplementaries.
Okay, let me. The browser blocked my screen. Oh, you're amazing. Okay, down at the bottom though, Rick, it doesn't allow you to. At the bottom of the StreamYard studio, it doesn't give you an option to present.
Oh yeah.
Okay, you should be able to share anything through that then.
Well, the button is there. Whether it lets me or not is another story.
Okay. Well, give it a try. I think you should be able to. Um,
Let's try it.
you'll do share screen or screen share, whatever it's called.
Now, whoops. Okay, it shows that they're on my screen. I don't know if anybody else can see it.
You should, yeah, if we, let's see. Oh, I just have to add it to the stage. There you go.
Yeah,
Now
there
you
you
should
go.
be able to scroll through it. Okay.
Yeah, this is the one that has the PDF for the. Oh, in fact, it's see the related professional Stan Perry. That's
Yes.
the investigation we were talking about.
Yes. I have I have that PDF downloaded. If you go all the way to the bottom of that page, the PDF, you can download the PDF to the entire their report of this. There you go. Yeah. Go for it, Rick.
Oh,
I mean, talk about whatever.
I've got to make this big enough that I can see it, or put my glasses on. One of the two.
For me, it would be both. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yeah,
Feel free to
it's
talk about it.
no. A lot of this came out after the June report, and they're talking about a statement that Snead made wanting to recant his testimony from the trials, and was basically threatened to not do it. His attorney and the DA pretty much ganged up on him. But there's the note he wrote. That's
Yeah.
a copy of the note that, you know, some things I need to clean up. If I can't get in contact with you or anyone who gets your mail, I'm going to try to contact the indigent defense over his case or the DA's. I think you know where I'm going. It was a mistake reliving this. Please write me back. And if I remember right, it was Snead's daughter that provided this.
Yes. And they would not allow her to. Yeah. Dang it! I wish I could find your name, Rick, to add to.
Do you have the chat open?
What chat?
The chat for the YouTube.
I have. Well, I have my permissions open, my settings.
Okay, if you go to the chat on the YouTube,
Yes.
you should be able to act.
Really?
Oh,
Huh.
you should be able to right click or something on my name to be able
Oh,
to find
okay.
it.
Yeah, I thought that's all you had to do, something simple. Because I've seen
Okay.
other
Well.
people do it.
Huh. Okay. Well, I have never done that, but I'm going to give it a try right now. I've always done it from my, um, not my studio, but the
Yeah.
whatever the place.
Um,
Oh, okay, the three dots. Got it. Okay.
yes, 3 dots.
There, I've never used that before.
And that Michael Scott that I mentioned earlier that was in jail with Snead and heard him bragging about it. Scott wasn't the only one. Fred McFadden,
Yes.
right here.
Yeah.
Another inmate, Scott, police and court testimony that Glossip hired him to carry out the murder for hire. Oh, yeah, I am now.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
told me.
So, so now you should be able to post links and stuff in the chat as well. But you can always share on the StreamYard as well. So, um,
And this McFadden actually filled out an affidavit where he said he beat the victim harder because he was enraged about getting punched in the eye, receiving a black eye, which brings us back to the point you and I were talking about, Rhonda, how they could justify accessory after the fact.
yes.
When Sneed went and talked to Richard after the commotion, Richard saw the injuries on his face, and Sneed passed it off and told him there were he just kicked out a couple of drunks that were causing a ruckus and broke a window. And as Sneed was walking away, Richard looked at him and said, "How did you get the black eye?" And Sneed said, "I killed Van Ness," and kept walking. And Sneed didn't take him seriously. Or Richard didn't take Sneed seriously. Richard then goes and talks to his girlfriend and go, "Hey, I think I ought to call the police because he just said he did this." And she basically went, "No, don't do it. If he did do it, they'll find out about it. You don't know whether it's true or not." So Richard made the decision not to call the police right then. And that's how they're tagging accessory after the fact on him, because he
Yes.
didn't contact the police immediately.
Right. And just that kind of reminds me. I can't play it because I'll get a copyright violation. But I'm going to put. I'm going to drop the link to this in the chat, and people can go watch it on their own. If I still have it, I do. This is Guntner. I can never say his name because it's kind of weird. Drummond, the AG, who kind of is instrumental or was instrumental in getting this back to SCOTUS to be heard and to be um, uh,
I will give him
investigated.
credit for that, and good job
Yes,
on getting it before the Supreme Court. What he says
right.
in this press conference today is disgusting.
Yeah, it pissed me off. Cherie and I chatted about it too. It pissed us both off because I feel like if you watch Drummond in the past, getting up to where we are right now, he's been, he's never said that Glossip was guilty or innocent. He said that he said he doesn't. This is my recollection, and you can go back and find old clips of him talking about this, in the past since he's been involved, since he's been AG. But I don't recall him ever saying anything about Glossip being guilty or being not guilty of this. But he has said unequivocally that he definitely feels strongly that Glossip deserved a new trial. So that's great. But I felt like in this interview that he gave today, that I just posted in the chat, he backpedaled a fucking lot. And when he says,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Cherie.
I was just going to say that I thought he was trying to be a politician and
Yeah, yes.
Kind of say something that might help him look better to the Van Trees family and
yes.
stuff. I don't know.
No, you're
You
right.
and I reacted exactly the same,
Yep.
Sheree, except I called it trying to sit on the fence.
Sitting on, fence sitting, which he didn't do well. It doesn't age well because of things he's said in the past. But the thing that I really am curious about is when he says that he believes, it blew my fucking mind when he said he he thinks Richard Glossip is guilty, but that he deserves a new trial. I've never heard Drummond say that before since he's
No,
been
that was the
involved.
first. Yeah,
That
that was the
was that's
first.
what Cherie and I thought too. Then I have also never seen, read, or heard anywhere in what I've researched in this case where uh, Richard Glossip says, "I admit I'm an accessory to the murder, but I didn't murder him. I'm an accessory, but he." And you just talked about it, Rick. But Drummond, he twisted words from something somewhere because I've never seen, read, or heard anywhere.
In
Uh,
in one
Go
of
ahead.
his interrogations, Richard related the story that I just related about what happened that night. And the detectives took that as an admission that he admitted, or an admission to being an accessory after the fact. I don't believe Richard ever actually said the words, "Yes, I admit I am an accessory after the fact." But he told them what happened that night, and they wrote it up as him admitting to being an accessory after the fact.
Right. But Gentner Drummond today, the AG, said that Richard Glossip admits that he was, I don't know if that was the right word, the same word he used, admits, but watch that clip yourself. It's about 7 minutes long. But he says that Glossip says that he admits that he was an accessory. And like you said, Rick, it was any words like that that came from Glossip that I've ever known were words that were twisted. Cherie, what were the detectives' names? We read so much about those guys.
One was a cook, Bill Cook. I can't remember the other one. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, and one of them not recently, but died a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. These men, and they you see them doing the interrogations in the Killing Richard Glossip mini doc, but uh, we read about these guys throughout reading the book Death and Justice by Mark Furman. I know when I say Mark Furman, people are like, "Oh my God, racist from the O.J. Simpson." Right, absolutely. Yep, you're all right. I agree. But let me tell you something. He did a great job with his research in writing the book Death and Justice, and the subtitle is I think the subtitle is Oklahoma's Killing Machine or something to that effect. Um,
The other investigator was Bob Bemo.
Bemo,
Yeah,
yes, Bemo. Yes, these two men were diabolical in their the way they coerced Justin Sneed and the way that they threatened and I think coerced threatened really Richard Glossip. It's really sad to watch them do those interviews or interrogations in the documentary.
yeah.
Um, they were
They apparently went to the same interrogation school that Kim Davis and Doofus went to.
yeah, Rocky Gregory. Yeah. Well, they take the Reed technique to a whole nother completely illegal level, in my opinion.
Yeah. Did you
You
that
know,
link I just posted, by the way, in the not the private chat, in the YouTube chat for the people listening? That is the Intercept interview with that with Ms. Garcia about that night, and that was done in 2017, I think it was.
okay.
No, it was done in 2022, but they were interviewing her about how she had gotten in touch to give information to the Reed investigation.
Yes. Yeah, without that Reed investigation, a lot of this stuff would be buried, buried, just like her note was buried, destroyed.
Yep. Here with McFadden, you can see that he gave an affidavit to Investigator Laughlin. And it says that Sneed took most of the blame and doesn't mention Richard at all. That much is an account of what happened. Talks about how Sneed's scary and how he beat him and how he got the black eye. What I want people to pay attention to in this supplemental report is this right here. Despite documentation showing communion with him regarding the substance of his anticipated testimony. Now, the current district attorney denied an open records request for these potential Brady materials, stating the request falls outside the scope.
And yeah, and that wasn't Vicky Behenna. That was that, because this was written several years ago. That's David Prater. That they're speaking of there. Oh, there's the name, BMO. Yep. Bob BMO.
Bob BMO.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and now, when you watch, go ahead.
These statements by Sneed in 1997 contradict the state's theory presented to the jury. And the sole death penalty aggregator of murder for remuneration, which means murder for hire, orchestrated by Glossip. They hid it. They buried it.
Right, which is a Brady those are Brady violations. That's a Brady. I mean, listen, I throw around that term pretty loosely because I take it to basic. To me, it has a very the meaning of it isn't subtle at all. It's pretty straightforward of what Brady violations are. And if for those who might be interested, it's a court case, Brady v. Maryland. I've read it. It's been years ago since I read it, but I've read that, and it's pretty straightforward language as to what a Brady violation is. And in my opinion, those were Brady violations. And it is not at all surprising. Nobody should be surprised that David Prater denied an open records request for information. That's how David Prater ran his entire office as district attorney, was on corruption and deceit and lies and nothing. There was nothing about justice as far as David Prater was concerned, in my opinion. Go ahead, Rick. Sherry, sorry.
I wasn't going to say anything. I'm trying to post stuff here, but it's going in backwards.
Now, remember we talked about evidence not being used and evidence destroyed? There was also evidence that they released to the victim's wife before they ever arrested and interviewed Sneed. Specifically, $23,100 collected from Mr. Van Treese's trunk. They interviewed Sneed on January 14th. Okay. The murder charges were not filed until January 23rd. Look at the date that they released the money back to her.
which is evidence in a fucking murder case.
Here it is, handwritten right there on the receipt.
Yes.
Property disposition or release 113. Okay to release.
By an
Evidence in a
investigator,
capital murder case.
Bob Bimo.
Yep. Detective Bimo went, yeah, go ahead and give the evidence back to the widow.
Give some evidence away so we don't
At
have
least
to
they
pretend.
were smart enough to have her sign a disposition or release that said what it was. Now, on January 21st, Detective Bimo and Lieutenant Hoyle released more evidence. His wallet, all of its contents, and miscellaneous papers. Again, okay to release. The wife signed it. What was in that wallet and in those papers?
Yeah, miscellaneous papers is very vague. We need to know what those miscellaneous papers said and what else was in that wallet.
Now, destruction of evidence. We spoke with retired officer Joseph McMahon, who informed us, oh, look at this. Look at this. What's that name?
Holy shit, Cherie, did you know that? I did not know that. I did not know that. Oh my gosh.
What?
Betty Prater was the Oklahoma City PD Property Management Unit employee.
Is that
filed,
Mrs. David Prater?
I don't know whether that's a wife or a sister.
Prater's not that common of a last name, in my opinion. I don't know. But
she filled out the property management unit destruction log and placed the items for destruction in box 27 on November 10th, 1999. We learned that Ms. Prater is recently deceased.
I'm going to look her up while you continue.
This is very hard to read, this writing, but the highlighted portion is what from that case was destroyed. It's duct tape, note. I have no idea what that something glasses. The curtain that's listed there is actually the shower curtain, and then just papers. We don't know what those papers were. They were just papers. Because there again, they weren't used at the first trial. They were destroyed before the second one. Now, I'm going to highlight or draw this in with a different color. Take a look at that number right there. What was the case number for this case with Richard?
Oh, crap. I don't know the case number off the top of my head. Looks like 9995391.
Don't read it off of what I just highlighted.
Oh.
There's a reason I'm asking this question. That's not the original case number that was assigned to Richard's case. DA Prater assigned it a new
number.
Case number, and that's the case number that's written there. He had those items destroyed under a new case number that he created.
telling you, man, these people are so
When you
freaking
look at
dirty.
what year did the event happen?
1997 or 90.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 97, I think.
What's the first two numbers of that case number for destruction?
Oh, yeah, 99.
For those of
Oh,
you
yeah.
that may not know, this is how a police department comes up with their case number.
Yep.
The first two numbers are always the year,
Yep.
and then there's a dash. And at 1 second after midnight, going into January 1st, they start with 001 for a case number. And then the
Yep.
second case that a number is assigned to is 002. And they keep doing that. That case number starts with 99, but the case that he was tried and convicted on was assigned a 1997 case number.
Yes. Yep.
The DA had them assigned a new case number, tagged that evidence under the new case number, and then ordered it destroyed. And why would a DA do that?
Well, I mean,
To
it's
hide the fact
to
that
hide.
they destroyed evidence.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Because I guarantee you his defense attorneys were not looking for case number 9995391. They were looking for the 1997 case number and anything that was attached to it.
I think that happened in Ashley Gar's case, another case I work on, and also the one involving Alex Baldwin. I think they had some evidence they hid under a different case number, like the bullets or something.
Yep, which is exactly why that whole thing turned out the way it did. But yeah, oh man, you know what? Obviously I didn't go through this like I should have. Rick obviously has. That's because that's what Rick does. So that's pretty. I had no idea about that 99 case number.
Yep.
That is, yeah. Thank you so much, Crockett, for hanging out and checking in with us, and it's great to see you. Thank you for being here. So yeah, just
thanks, Crockett. You be safe out there.
We've known Crockett for I can't even venture a guess of how many years we've known Crockett. We came to know Crockett through Stephen Avery and Brendan Dassey's cases. And he's gracious and kind enough to, check us out over here from time to time. And he's been a great supporter of us with Daniel in covering Daniel's case, and here as well with Richard Glossip. So thank you so much, Crockett. Always great to see you. I'm just mind blown with the whole 99 case number. I did not know that, but it makes so much. It kind of ties everything into a nice little package when you see that. Not everything, but you kind of go, oh, okay. At least I am. So
I find it very interesting that the person in charge of the evidence management has the same last name as the district attorney who ordered the destruction.
Oh yes, I was trying to look that up. I got squirreled. Surprise.
Yes, I know. That's why I brought it up again. I'm getting used to your squirrel spells.
Thank you. Let's see if I can figure out who this woman is.
We're thinking important thoughts, right, Rhonda? We just don't have room for them all sometimes.
Right. Exactly. Geez, that didn't work out either. I'll find it though. I don't know if I maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't. That's just to me that seems like an uncommon last name. But that's that doesn't
And
mean that it's so.
I'm going to go ahead and drop this here because I don't know whether you already had yet or not. Oh, no, I can't drop that there. That's not the link I wanted to drop. I'm trying to drop the PDF link instead of where the June. You did drop where the June report is at, right?
I've dropped a few. I've dropped several. I know Cherie has too. So
I dropped one that was in March, I think, March 2023.
Okay. Now, that's the shenanigans after the first trial. The whole reason I'm opening up this is because there are things that are in their initial report that was not in the supplement. And I'm not going to go through all of this. It's basically things we've already talked about, how the Oklahoma legislators requested an independent investigation, how long it took them, how many documents they went through, broken down into the number of pages, how many witnesses they talked to. They actually did talk to jurors.
sorry, I muted myself. Yeah.
They did reach out to the Van Treese family. They did correspond with Justin Sneed. What I'm trying to get to is okay. Was the verdict? These are the questions that the two main questions they wanted to answer. Was the verdict from his second trial reliable in light of all facts of evidence now known? And does the investigation suggest any recommendations that would improve Oklahoma's criminal justice system? That second statement right there is extremely important because that's how the legislature was able to justify bringing in an independent investigator. They were doing it for a legislative purpose. Do we need to improve the laws of Oklahoma to protect investigations and make sure they're done correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We just talked about this in the supplement, the destruction of several pieces of key physical evidence, as well as potentially exculpatory financial documents before Glossip's retrial by the Oklahoma City Police Department at the direction of the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office. The investigation confirmed that a 28-year veteran of the Oklahoma City Police Department was specifically requested by the Oklahoma County District Attorney's Office to destroy a box of evidence containing 10 items. Due to the detective's statements and documentation obtained from the Oklahoma City Police Department, the destruction of evidence appears deliberate and not a mere accident. We have learned that the evidence destruction was in violation of, and here I alluded to this earlier, a long-standing agreement in place since the 1990s between the police department and the district attorney's office that evidence in a capital murder case is never to be destroyed.
But
Bullet
But
point number 2 in what they found.
make it. Can you make your? Can
Oh,
you?
yeah. I haven't made it bigger this time.
Oh, there.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
The investigation found that intentional contamination by the lead homicide detectives of Sneed's interrogation that appears to have signaled to Sneed to implicate Glossip as involved in the mastermind of the murder rather than gather information from Sneed of what happened, regardless of whether or not it fit a particular hypothesis. Notably, Glossip and only Glossip was mentioned by the detectives 6 times in the first 20 minutes of the interrogation before Sneed adopted the hypothesis that Glossip was not only involved in the murder, but hired Sneed to kill Mr. Van Treese. And then they have screenshots of the transcripts of the interrogation. I wish I had the full transcripts. I don't. This contamination by the police, which the jury never heard about because defense counsel did not play the Sneed interrogation tape. The prosecution never played it. They just had the detectives testify as to what Sneed said to them in the interrogation. The defense could have impeached the detectives by playing the tape and never did. Now, here's why I said during this investigation they talked to jurors. Multiple jurors expressed that they wished they had seen the video of Sneed's interrogation, since Sneed's testimony was the sole evidence that Glossip planned the murder and hired Sneed to carry it out. Glossip's conviction appears to be significantly tainted. Without the statements to the police and subsequent testimony, there would have never been a murder conviction of Glossip as explained by the prosecution. This is a case of the DA actually turned over the Brady material, and his first defense attorney blew it. I don't know whether he reviewed it and decided not to use it, whether he just never reviewed it. I don't know why he didn't play it for the jury, but it should have been played.
I believe that would have been Wayne, however you say his last name. The first.
Is it Fonrad or something like that? It's
Farnrad or Fauneroy or something to that effect. Yeah. And I believe I'm going to have to watch Killing Richard Glossip again. Obviously, it's been a little bit since I've seen it, but
I wanted to.
Yeah, especially when we get news of Richard's, in Richard's case, especially this news. Farneroy or whatever his name is was very ill prepared. I want to say he makes claims that he didn't receive all of the evidence, but he didn't. It's like, it's like when I used to have a store manager when I worked at Walmart, giving us one of our weekly meetings one day, and he said something about, if you don't know something, ask us. If you don't know ask management. We'll tell. And I raised my hand and I said, how do I know what to ask you if I don't know what I need to know? Or something to that effect. If I don't know what I need to know, I don't know that I should be asking. And it's the same. I kind of got the same feeling with um, with this attorney, he didn't know what he didn't know. So how was he supposed to ask for certain pieces of evidence, or what if they're not giving over the evidence the way they're supposed to, the prosecution, I mean, it's hard to, say, I mean, at least in Daniel's case, Scott Adams from time to time will call out the state and say, I've asked for such and such X amount of times, and you keep telling me I either have it or you don't have it or whatever. But so at least I can say that much for Scott Adams in Daniel's case. But from what I can remember from Glossip's first attorney in the first trial, he didn't know what he didn't know what he didn't know. So how could he ask for it? You know what I mean? Those kinds of things are supposed to be handed over, whether it's exculpatory or inculpatory.
Yep.
If I said that right, the prosecution is supposed to be handing over all of the evidence, and that obviously did not happen in Glossip's first trial or second trial, and who knows what's going to happen in this next trial. Only thing that we have, well, I shouldn't say the only thing, but one of the things that his defense attorney will have in his next trial, Glossip's, is they know that there was evidence withheld from them, from the defense.
They have the Reed report now.
Right. Yeah. So that evidence may not exist anymore, probably doesn't, obviously, but at least they know that there was evidence not turned over to them. And I think that's a huge case for, violations, Brady violations. There I go with that term again. But
yep.
I just stuck in the chat a quote from something that I pulled up. It was really hard to find Prater's wife's name in anything, even on Wikipedia. But in an article in the Norman Transcript, which is Norman, Oklahoma, where Prater lived, I guess, at the time, he says, quote, the article references, quote, Prater is married to former Channel 9 investigative reporter Tamara Pratt. So that's different from, obviously, from Betty Prater.
But that doesn't mean they're not related.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fair, I don't know that they are, but I'm like you.
Yeah.
Down to the same spelling, working in the same city.
Right.
One a district attorney, one working for the police department. You have got to believe there's some relationship there.
There's got to be. Pratt, Pratt, Tamara Pratt. That's a far more common name. I've seen the name Pratt all over the place. Prater, not so much. So I'm going to do some more investigating on that, on Betty Prater, just because I love going down deep, dark rabbit holes that may or may not even relate to what we're talking about. But nonetheless, Prater, and this is an article. I guess I could just link the article for people to read if they're interested. But this is an article that's talking about David Prater being fired by the former DA, Wes Lane, before Prater was obviously district attorney. So I'm just going to stick that in the chat just for shits and grins if somebody's interested in reading that at some point. But my point, what I was going to go back to was Prater, married to a former Channel 9 investigative reporter. You can, God, Sharif, what are we going to do? Prater had to be, I can only imagine that if his wife was an investigative reporter for, one of Oklahoma's most popular news channels, Prater was probably getting some pretty favorable reports, I guess you could say, comments. But in that article, he says it wasn't my wife who, leaked whatever information the article's talking about. It was the station itself. Well, maybe I'll find out. I'll figure it out. But at any rate, I'm going to look into that a little sometime in my life, in my future, but not today or tomorrow. But that makes me very curious. And Betty Prater, Cherie, Under Your Scars, some of you, we need to look into Betty Prater, figure out, because it's no different than us believing that it was a conflict of interest for Elaine Taylor to be testing evidence that her son-in-law, Rocky Gregory, sent to her for testing in Daniel Holtzclaw's case.
Yeah, that. Don't even
right?
get started on that right now. We'll never get through this.
I know. But that's the same concept, though, is my point.
Yep.
It's all conflict of interest. And I get it. Oklahoma City PD or law enforcement or whatever, maybe they're a small, I don't feel like they're really that small. There's got to be other people in those different entities that can do the work so that there doesn't have to be an appearance of a conflict of interest. But I digress. 100,000 ways to Sunday.
You would.
So anyway, yeah, but anyway, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Financial records that refute the claims of embezzlement and call in to question the pending termination of Glossip, which is the reason the detective said and the DA said he hired Sneed to kill him, because he'd been embezzling money and was about to get fired. Evidence showing the unreliability of several of the state's witnesses that it used to corroborate Sneed's story. For example, flight and motive evidence was provided by Cliff Everhart. Everhart was under investigation for corruption by the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation.
Yes, Everhart. Rick, sorry. That's who I was talking about earlier in the documentary that they were talking about. Is Everhart and him, Glossip possibly having information against Everhart that OKCPD, or the state rather, had to keep hidden or buried, and if they didn't do something with Glossip, they risked, I think, is my thought, they risked Glossip spilling the beans on Everhart. Yes, that's the name. Remember him, Cherie? He's dirty.
They screwed Richard over for nothing, because in 2005, after the second trial, Glossip went to, Everhart went to prison for making false statements.
Gee. Oh,
fellow colleagues at the Oklahoma Indigent Defense System voiced concerns internally that Everhart exhibited character deficiencies, including very limited honesty and integrity. Gee, you think?
Yeah.
This is particularly troubling given that Everhart was one of the first witnesses to point police in Glossip's direction and a key state witness for its case.
Yep.
He's not the only one with that honesty and integrity problem in this case.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rick.
Misleading lay opinion and hearsay testimony was provided at trial by multiple witnesses going to the heart of the case, amounting to an improper expression of a defendant's guilt. that interjected into the record gossip and speculation masquerading as credible evidence of corroboration. Gee, where have we heard that at before? One example includes the motel's desk clerk, Billy Hooper, who knew Sneed for only a couple of months, testifying Sneed would not have done it acting on his own volition. Sorry, guys, maybe it's a poor redneck joke, but I cannot imagine Billy spelled Y-E using the words acting on his own volition.
No need to apologize, at least for me. I'm not offended.
That Lewis Black comedy routine about the guy that shot himself in the nuts in Arkansas? Gee, Billy Ray was involved. Imagine that.
Really? Well, also, I lost my train of thought. Sneed has a pretty lengthy or questionable or, criminal history himself.
Yeah, I didn't go
So-
through it all in that one supplement, but there is tons of it there.
Yes.
But the state falsely portrayed Sneed as meek and nonviolent puppet, completely dependent on Glossip for his survival in every move. All these witnesses, including Ms. Garcia, that came out of the woodwork after this made national news, went, Sneed was a violent, slimy, conniving individual. These, of course, are the witnesses that they threatened to arrest and prosecute if they didn't keep quiet.
Yes.
This depiction is seemingly at odds with the undisputed fact that Sneed alone beat Mr. Van Treese with a baseball bat. Barney Fife comes to that conclusion. Sneed also told conflicting versions of events each time he was interviewed by police or defense counsel or gave testimony at Glossip's first and second trials. Now, there again, I don't have the transcripts. I would love to know in the second trial if Richard's defense attorney went, wait a minute, Mr. Sneed, that's not what you said in the first trial. That's not what you said in your police interview. That's not what you said in your second police interview. That's not what you said in your third police interview.
Right. Yeah.
These facts, combined with Sneed's incentive to shift blame to someone else, raise material questions as to the reliability of his testimony. Critical gaps in jurors' instructions that, based on jury interviews, appear to have caused the jury to misunderstand Oklahoma's statutory mandate requiring a specific analysis be undertaken to determine why there is sufficient corroboration of accomplice testimony. Where else have we seen piss poor jury instructions given to a jury here recently?
Well, let me just say, side railing again as I do, this isn't something I think I've ever said before when we've talked about Daniel's case. There are 77 or 78 jury instructions read to the jurors before they go out to deliberate in Daniel's case.
Yep.
77. Anyway.
There's no way those jurors understood all that.
No.
The prosecution's failure to vet the evidence collected by the police and its further distortion of nearly every witness's testimony to fit its case theory and secure a guilty verdict. The lead prosecutor does not appear to have been skeptical that several witnesses testified to new information, emphasis added. They never told the police or reversed their testimony from what they previously told police, and instead seemed to justify these discrepancies by lauding herself as a skilled questioner. The only thing they can point to is the fact that some of the witnesses told you more than they had ever told anyone before. Well, that's right. On some of the witnesses, I'm not going to apologize for asking more questions than anybody else did before because, that's me. I'm a questioner. Talk about an arrogant, censor that word because I don't like using it in front of ladies. Despite the state's theory this was a murder for hire, the complete set of facts and objective evidence support that Mr. Van Treese's murder was most likely a robbery gone bad. This goes back to the girls that were staying there routinely when they traveled through there that had interacted with Sneed a lot, that tried to tell the cops, hey, look, he uses his girlfriend to lure these guys into one of the hotel rooms and then robs them in there all the time. The cops knew he had a history of doing these types of things. Oh, by the way, Sneed's girlfriend described Van Treese as her sugar daddy. Apparently he gave her money and gifts all the time.
That's not weird.
The lead homicide detective years later publicly stated his belief that Sneed probably got a little carried away because he was mad he got hit. And before it was too late, he ended up killing Barry and didn't. I don't know that he intended to, but he did. Gee.
Have you?
But didn't you go into court and testify that it was most definitely a murder for hire? This poor little boy Sneed was completely under his spell and dependent on him and needed him to survive.
Yeah. The crime scene photos are shown in the documentary. That was not a, I'm trying to find where you said it. Because that was not somebody getting carried away because they got hit, because they were mad, because they got hit. That was a slaughter with a baseball bat. Yes,
that was an ambush.
Yes. The crime scene photos that they show in the documentary are horrendous. If I'm pissed off at somebody because they hit me, or hit me twice, hit me 5 times, I can't imagine, unless I am already predisposed to violence, that I would take a bat to that person and literally smash their body all over that hotel room.
Well, Justin Sneed was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and routinely shot up methamphetamine to the point that he couldn't find a good vein to get the needle in.
Right. Yep. This is not somebody just got mad because they got hit, so they got carried away. Hell no. That's so infuriating.
Let's take a look at the transcript of what the DA told the jury. But for Richard Glossip, Justin Sneed would never have killed Barry Van Treese. And you heard that. You heard that the only motive that you have here for the death of Barry Van Treese is Richard Glossip's. I particularly like this statement in the Reed report. Not until Intending to kill somebody and getting carried away after being hit by definition is not a murder for hire, nor is it a planned murder. And had the jury heard this statement from the lead homicide detective, it may well have changed the course of events. Oh, yeah, that's probably why the jury never heard from you, sir.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
The destruction and a loss of key evidence before the retrial deprived the defense from using the evidence at trial, and has deprived the defense today of the ability to perform forensic testing using DNA and technology advancements. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, but let's get it the fuck out of Oklahoma City, okay? Because they have proven for decades upon decades they are not capable of being forthright and truthful about their evidence testing. Sorry.
No, you are fine. You are fine. As to question 2, this is justifying the investigation for the legislative purpose. Evidence should not be destroyed in a capital murder case, and implement additional safeguards such as specific code in the police record systems to delineate which cases are capital murder cases. No defendant should be executed if such destruction material or potentially exculpatory evidence has occurred. Now, I'm willing to bet the lawyers at this law firm that did this investigation, that wrote this recommendation, also read Justice Breyer's dissenting opinion. Was it a dissenting opinion? It may have been a concurring opinion. I don't remember. No, it was a dissenting opinion from a previous visit at the Supreme Court.
From the Oklahoma
Yeah.
Supreme Court? Okay, gotcha.
No, from the U.S. Supreme Court. Remember, Richard's case went there twice.
Right.
Let me open my notes here. I believe it was 2015. I'm positive it was 2015. Justice Breyer was still on the bench at the U.S. Supreme Court, and he raised a number of these issues with this was about the moratorium. And one of the ways that he justified the moratorium in his opinion was to cite several cases. He also cited some previous Supreme Court justices, specifically Justice Potter Stewart. He also cited a concurrent opinion with us, Justice Stewart and Justice Powell and Justice Stevens, and that was Godfrey versus. You know what's crazy is I can tell you the numbers right off the top of my head, but I can't remember the state. Georgia. Godfrey versus Georgia, 446 U.S., and I think it's 420 and 428. It was a 1980 case. And where he was worried about the unfairness of how the death penalty is applied, and it's rushed in some cases and not rushed in other cases, and the mismatch and everything. But he cited three particular, actually four defendants, but three of them that were in the same situation that Richard's in now. One was Henry McCollum, and if I remember right, Henry McCollum was a Texas case that got exonerated after it was over 30 years on death row because of advancements in DNA testing. Tony Hinton, that was a Louisiana case. He spent over 30 years, or no, not Louisiana, Alabama. I think Alabama. I'd have to check. It's 571 U.S. It was a 2014 case. Because of flawed evidence. Flawed evidence is a very nice way to say the cops and the district attorney screwed the evidence up. And Glenn Ford might be the Louisiana case I'm thinking about. Because the district attorney that tried him, or the state's attorney that tried him, withheld evidence that would have exonerated him at the time.
Wow.
The fourth case that he cited was the Colorado case. It's Arity. Don't try to look it up. It's from 1930. The reason he cited it was because Arity's family had been begging for a new investigation into his case. And the governor of Colorado in 2011 actually gave him a posthumous full pardon. Mr. Arity was executed within 6 days of conviction, and he didn't do it.
Oh my gosh. Ugh.
It's a 1930 case out of Colorado.
Wow. This is why I can never support the death penalty. No matter what other ideas or thoughts or opinions I may have had in the past, I cannot support the death penalty when I know that innocent men and probably women possibly have been executed. And I can't support that. I can't support that.
Nope. There's a Justice Breyer also quoted a study, and I would have to go back and reread his opinion. I can't remember who did the study. I think it was Liebman, Leibman. It might be Liebman, and it's on the Texas Carlos de Luna wrongful execution case. And since 1970, I can't remember if it's 1973 or 1976, they have found, I can't remember the specific number, but it is over 20 wrongful executions that the executed individual was later determined to be innocent.
Well, we know of at least one case in Oklahoma City where Malcolm Rent Johnson was executed right after the moratorium was lifted, like days, if I'm not mistaken, after the moratorium was lifted. Malcolm Rent Johnson was a bad man. He was a bad criminal, a horrible individual, committed horrendous crimes. That he paid his time, he did his time, served his time, but because of Joyce Gilchrist's, I don't want to say faulty testing, as much as it was just blatant false testing.
She was bad, but it wasn't all her fault either.
No, it was
Bob Macy,
Bob Macy, well, because they were pretty good pals, and Bob Macy depended on Joyce Gilchrist. Yeah, depended on her to make evidence work for him, which I just find vile and disgusting. But that's a whole other topic. I have a couple of Bob Macy videos on the channel, Bob Macy and Joyce Gilchrist, I think. But Malcolm Rent Johnson. So people, I have had people say, or heard people say, well, he was a horrible, he did this crime, he did this crime, he committed this crime. Bob Macy, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, is the one prominent person I remember saying, well, you know what, he and BMO and that other dude, other investigator, well, you know, he committed all these other crimes, all these other horrific crimes or heinous crimes. So even if he didn't commit this crime, he, you know, it was an execution. It was a good execution. Bullshit. That was a different case. He already did his time for all the other shit that, you know, that he did, all the other heinous crimes or whatever he committed. He already did that. He already paid for those crimes. You can't frame him or anybody for another crime, another murder, rape and murder of an old lady, I think it was, that, and then say, you know, falsify the evidence in that or the forensic evidence in that, and then say, oh, well, after he's executed, say, oops, yeah, but, you know, but all these other crimes.
He deserved it before now.
He deserves it.
Basically,
Yeah.
is what he
Yeah.
said. Oh,
Yeah.
we're getting to Mr. Macy here before long.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm
This should be a no-brainer. I'm surprised this was not already in legislation or regulations. The Oklahoma Indigent Defense System should not be the appellate attorneys for direct appeals, ineffective assistance of counsel claims if OIDS attorneys served as defense counsel in the trial. You think?
well, duh.
No,
Duh, from a layman over here.
Now we're getting to your friend, Mr. Macy. Implement specific criteria for service on the Pardon and Parole Board to prevent conflicts of interest or the appearance of conflicts. Example, nepotism or the appearance of lack of impartiality. A few examples that raise concerns include former District Attorney Robert Bob Macy's son, Robert Brett Macy, former Assistant District Attorney Connie Smotherman's husband, Richard Smotherman,
Yep.
and former Oklahoma County Assistant District Attorney Patty High, who previously worked closely on other cases with Glossip's prosecutor, Miss Smotherson, and did not recuse herself from Glossip's 2014 clemency hearing.
Wow. Hi, I wonder.
Macy's son, another district attorney's husband.
Yeah. Well, I remember Smotherman's husband recusing himself during the most recent clemency hearing, which had because we watched that together and it was infuriating. He did the right thing. He should not have been hearing, but instead of having an alternate like they should have for the pardon, for those very reasons, because there's so many people related to so many fucking people.
Yeah, but here's the kicker. And I'm going to underline this in red. In addition, a recusal by a parole board member should not effectively count as a no vote against clemency for the inmate. If you recuse yourself, they go, oh, he voted no.
Yep, then that's what they did.
No, he didn't. He recused himself. He didn't vote at all.
He didn't vote at all. Yeah, I agree. Yep. And that's what they did in Glossip.
It's just
it's when you start digging and unearthing all of the like the Reed firm did here, all of the corruption. It's not just about did Richard Glossip not get a fair trial, or should this be overturned, or any of those surface things. It's much, much deeper, darker, and more diabolical when you get to the roots of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. October 1999. District Attorney's Office directs Oklahoma City Police Department to destroy the box of evidence with 10 items, including financial records. July 2001. Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals vacates conviction, grants new trial. That was after the first Supreme Court case, wasn't it? Or no, they're not called. Isn't that when it got sent back down to the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals because of an issue?
Rick, honestly, I really don't know because I was not aware of Glossip's case at all during all of that time at all.
I can't remember. I think it was in the documentary, but
yeah, I know it was in the documentary,
Yeah,
but I
yes.
don't have all. I can't remember everything. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah. Remember more than I do.
I thought this was a rather interesting bit of information. Barry Van Treese didn't trust banks. That's why he kept all the cash in his car and paid everything in cash. Why did Mr. Van Treese not trust banks? He was a former banker.
Yeah.
interesting.
That's pretty telling.
Oh. I don't. I hate that phrase. God, that drives me nuts. Congressional hearings.
I'm trying to get her to change her name. I really
Cringe
am.
every
But she
time I
won't.
see Sharice's name pop up in a chat. It's like, ugh. I can just hear Peter Strzok, the slimy little weasel, smirking in Congress, going, "I don't recall, Congressman."
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recall.
That's funny. I was listening to Kurt. Is that his name? When he was
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
listening to I listened to the oral arguments that y'all listened to that, and there's somebody in that chat called I can't remember.
Yeah.
We're cousins, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's a picture of the hotel motel. It's referred to a couple of different ways depending on what interview you're reading. It was called Best Budget back then. It's now called Oklahoma City Hotel or Motel or something like that.
This one was in Tulsa. That picture, because he had, I think, 4. That one was in Tulsa. We actually went to this one. We went, Sheree and I. Yeah.
Best Budget right here.
Yeah. That's the one in OKC. That's the one Sheree and I went through.
Yeah, Rhonda and Sheree had been there, and I have been past it numerous occasions because there's a really nice Oklahoma City outlet mall just like a half a block away from this motel that I used to stop and get T-shirts and socks at when I needed them to go referee events.
Yeah.
In fact, I stayed just an exit down from this motel at one of the Flavors of Hilton at if I remember right, you get off at exit 139 to get to the outlet mall 139A and this motel, and I would take 139B and go down to, I think it's Mustang Road, on the frontage road there off Mustang Road. And I don't think it's actually that hotel's in Oklahoma City. I think it's in York or something like that. I did not like the look of the neighborhood that this motel was in, so I went to Hilton.
Oh yeah, well, we were there in 2023, I think, and it was rough then. But from all the pictures that we've seen in the crime scene pictures, it was pretty rough back in 1997 as well. So
yeah. Now, Miss Garcia and the girls that I kept talking about that stayed there regularly, This right here is why they stayed there regularly. They were traveling dancers that would go from strip club to strip club across the country and perform. And this Sinclair gas station is also important because one of the items of missing, not destroyed, missing evidence was the videotapes from the surveillance cameras of that Sinclair gas station. That's one of the
Also,
items of evidence that disappeared.
Also, the information that I got from the attorney in Richard's first trial, there was a McDonald's close to that in that area as well, and
The
there's
McDonald's sits right by the motel, yeah.
right, and there was, according to the information that I got from Wayne, there was likely, possibly, evidence of some type tossed in that dumpster as well at that McDonald's. Yeah.
It's entirely possible. If you look at the picture with the 3 red arrows, the McDonald's you're talking about is just the other side of the building
yeah,
that direction.
Yeah, it's actually just, yep. I know exactly where you're talking about.
I'm not going to try to go through all of this stuff because we've been on over 2 hours now.
Right.
I really wanted to cover the problems with a lot of the stuff that caused the Supreme Court to make their decision today.
Right.
No,
you
I
did
linked
great.
this in the chat. If anybody that's still here in the chat listening wants to go ahead and take a look at this, you'll find this on the read page that's dated 9 August 2022. It's worth going through. It really is.
The information in there and the supplemental PDFs that are included are, definitely worth the time. Definitely worth the day going through for sure. If if you're interested in knowing the corruption behind this case as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to read it. It's fascinating.
It's so, as the thumbnail indicates, if you haven't already heard, the Supreme Court, United States Supreme Court, well, I guess it depends on. I'm confused by, I guess, I don't know. It rules that the prosecutors violated ethical responsibility in Richard Glossip's case and orders a new trial. And then when you listen to the interview by what's his face, Drummond, I'm very much a layman over here. I know very basic. I talk like I know a lot, but I really don't. But it seems, evidently, according to Drummond, the AG, he and Vicky Bahena, the current district attorney in Oklahoma City, they get to meet and confer about this and decide if they're going to I didn't hear him say anything about them deciding to grant Glossip a new trial. From what I remember, and I might have just been only hearing parts I wanted to hear, but it seems to me like, according to Drummond, their only things they're going to consider are if they should commute the sentence to life without parole, or if they, what was the other one? Grant clemency, But I think there were three things that he mentioned, but none of them that I can remember. And Cherie, maybe you heard it differently. None of the things that he says they're going to discuss had anything to do with a new trial. And if
Well,
I'm not mistaken,
a reporter specifically asked, is dismissing the case a possibility? And he just very quickly said, all options are open at this point, and moved on to another question.
okay.
I think it's up to Vicky.
Well, yeah, ultimately it's going to be up to the district attorney of Oklahoma County, because that's what the Oklahoma Court of Appeals is going to do, is remand it back down to the Oklahoma County Court for either a new trial, or I don't know if the Oklahoma Criminal Court of Appeals can take action on their own and go, you know what? No, we've been kicked in the teeth twice. This case is done. It's all vacated and dismissed. And cite the misconduct the Supreme Court printed out and all the problems with it as the basis for it.
Right.
Did you remember Glenn Simmons, like a year ago or so, Vicky?
Yeah.
I think that, I can't remember everything about how that came back down, but she decided not to retry it.
Not to retry him.
So,
and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think with Glenn Simmons, she said something to the effect, he served his time. He served enough time. I think there's several cases like that in Oklahoma City. So I can't remember if that was Glenn Simmons or not. I think we did a video on Glenn Simmons, if I'm not mistaken, a short one, or talked about it in one of the regular Holtzclaw videos. But anyway, so I guess I'm just confused. I just thought that when the Supreme Court of the United States says, we're throwing this out, he didn't receive a fair trial. I can't remember the words, overturned or thrown out or whatever. I thought that was it. I didn't know that they get to
the conviction for the reasons that they stated, and then remanded it back down to the lower court for either a new trial or whatever.
Okay. Kurt covered.
Bottom line is, they're saying you can't keep holding him on that.
Right.
Well, that's one thing the Attorney General for Oklahoma did say today, is that he was going to continue to have him held.
Yes.
Until a decision was made on disposition of the case.
Right. Well, and I didn't expect them to, release Richard Glossip. That's not something I expected at all. But
I think right now he probably doesn't. He's just so happy not to have that hanging over his head anymore.
Yeah.
He can handle a few more, a little longer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and from all accounts, everything that we've heard through interviews and whatnot, his state of mind has been all positive. Just whatever happens, and he obviously hopes to have the conviction completely overturned and not to have to stand trial and to be released. Of course, that's what but he's not like, because I'm wallowing in his misery more than he is, it seems like, you know what I mean? So, but you have to make a decision, I guess, at some point. You either have to make the decision to have his state of mind or his attitude, mentality, or just continue, or just be miserable for whatever time you may have left. And, I think that's admirable, to me anyway, on his part, that, for him to, have that attitude. And he has a very supportive and loving wife and family. And the amount of supporters in Oklahoma City and across the country, if not the world, that he has is, pretty phenomenal. But, so whatever happens, I just take the fucking death penalty off, because it does not apply to Richard Glossip, in my opinion. So, just who's your friend? I don't know who your friend is. You're welcome to wait here, though. Glad to have you. So at the end of the day, when Rick shared this with me earlier today, when I was already blubbering over the "Take Me Home, Country Road" song, it really was just, probably the best news I've heard so far in Richard's case. And I'm happy for him. I'm happy for his wife, his family, all of his supporters. Of course, there's still more to come. There's still more to come, and we will cover it when it does, the best that we can. And like I said, if you're not familiar with the case, you should be more familiar with it now after everything that Rick's gone through. But from the beginning, if you want to get some of the information, definitely check out Killing Richard Glossip on Amazon
Yes.
Prime. I think it's free now. I don't think you have to pay for it.
I think it's free if you have Prime.
If you have Prime, right. Well, it used to not. Even if you had Prime, it didn't used to be free, and you had to pay for it. And Cherie and I both paid for it so we could watch it together, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because that's the only way you can do a watch party, which is whatever. That's a whole.
Yep, we did. I still own it to this day, and I'm going to watch it again.
Me too. I'm going to have to watch it again this weekend. I'm really, really curious about some things that I've forgotten and whatnot. But so.
Yeah, it won't let me post the link for it here because it's too many characters.
Yeah. Amazon does that a lot. Anyway, just, we're going to keep, supporting and following, of course, Richard's case, continuing to, bring information, especially when it's big information like this. This is probably the biggest we've seen since, Dr. Phil did his whole campaign. Last year, a couple years ago. But there's a Facebook page. If you haven't, I might have it open to hurry and share it with you guys. Yes, I do. I'll share you the Facebook page with you really quick, his support page. There you go. If you want to check that out, and just everything that we're giving you not access to, links to, or talking to you about, or whatever, is still not as much information as what you're going to find in what Rick was going through over this afternoon or tonight.
We should get the documents, or what documents we can, like the opinion and the ones he was showing, and put them in the Richard Glossip room in Discord.
I'm working on that.
Yeah.
Oh, you're ahead of me. Okay.
Yeah, I think Rick's working on that. Also, uncivil law. So, that's what I started to say. So when Rick sent this to me today, I was busy editing the video for this coming Sunday for Daniel's case, and I got that from Rick, and I don't remember how it happened, but I ventured onto the internet, which I hadn't been other than Discord and my editing software. And I noticed that Kurt from Uncivil Law was live streaming something going on in the Karen Reed case. If you don't know Kurt, Uncivil Law, he is he's a SCOTUS junkie. Like he loves reading SCOTUS opinions and stuff like that. And he's good at it. I mean, I really like Kurt a lot. And so he had read the opinion back from that came down in October, I think it was. And then he read the recent opinion from SCOTUS, which was a blatant, it wasn't even opinion. It wasn't there was no hearing had or anything regarding the 2001, I think it was, murder for hire case where the Supreme Court didn't hear anything. They just said, you guys are all fucking crazy and this is what we're ordering, which was astounding, really, to for the Supreme Court to not wait to hear or want to hear anything. They just wanted to rule because the situation was so outrageous. But anyway,
He called it bench slapping.
bench slapping, yes, bench slapping.
Yep.
But when this all happened, I saw that Kurt was live streaming. I remembered his other, SCOTUS readings and what, about from Oklahoma stuff. And so I hijacked his chat, and I don't remember how far, a couple hours into his Karen Reed stuff. I think the court was on a break or something in the Reed case. And so they were chatting and he was kind of like, da, 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 and the chat was like, da, da, da. And so I hijacked him and I said, and I tagged him and I told him about this today's ruling from the Supreme Court. And so he pulled up he's like, ooh. So he pulled up the decision and he started reading through it. And if you know Kurt and you appreciate his side commentary, which I do, it's really worth going and checking it out. Hearing what he has to say. At some point, he's just like, okay, I'm done. I'm bored with reading, whatever. It was starting to blather on, I think. And
he was starting to read Thomas's dissent, and it's like,
oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
okay, I'm done.
Because Kurt is a fanboy of Justice Thomas. So he didn't want to, he was a little disappointed. I
was very disappointed.
Yeah, I was too. I just thought, ugh. But anyway, go check out.
Sorry for the poor prosecutors that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little over the top for me with Justice Thomas, but it's whatever. It was very disappointing to Kurt, I think. So he went ahead and stopped reading, but at any rate, it's always worth it to go and listen to the part where he started reading the Supreme Court's.
I'm not sure. I'm sure I wouldn't like his commentary on everything, but I do like his commentary on these Oklahoma cases.
Right. Yeah. No, I know you wouldn't. Yeah, and politics, but also, to be fair to Kurt, he is absolutely. Listen, even if it's if it's something against his side, he doesn't try to sugarcoat anything for anybody or any side or anything, so he's fair. I think he's fair when it comes to that kind of a political talk. So I saw somebody, Blair. Hi, Blair. It's so great to see you. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you for so long. Yes, Daniel has to be next. Absolutely, Blair. It is so great to see you. Thank you for dropping in. I know you're busy. You got lots of stuff going on, and so I appreciate you coming in to say hello to us and obviously showing your support for Daniel. So anyway, it was a big day. It was a very emotional day for me. I got zero editing done on the video for Sunday, but it's okay. I'm halfway through it already as it is. So just to kind of, excuse me. I'm so sorry. Just to kind of talk about Daniel's case for a minute, because that's what I do. So you're going to be listening to the preliminary hearing of Kayla Lyles, reading through the transcript. I think I will have a few pictures to add into the, not that they weren't really exhibits that we could get our hands on, but based on the descriptions that were being given by dirty, gross Galen Gigger, I was able to make some Google Earth Pro pictures, and so that at least you guys can get a visuals of what he's talking about. Again, really quickly about Daniel. Well, not Daniel necessarily, but Kayla Lyles, who we have already been planning to start discussing. We started last Sunday. Kayla Lyles was recently arrested. I believe it was on February 13th. Jenny Holtzclaw had this posted on her page. February 13th, I believe she was arrested. And I think Jenny made the post on the 20th or something, 22nd, something like that. So just very recently is my point. Kayla Lyles was arrested again. So there's no reason to tell you that other than it's just kind of par for the course for just about all of these accusers in Daniel's case. So preliminary hearing, you'll get to hear that on Sunday. And then the following week, we'll start recording soon the trial transcript for Kayla Lyles' case for you to hear the following Sunday. So that's kind of an update on where we are with Daniel's case or presentation of his case. So, Rick, thank you so much for, taking the extra time to go through the Reed Smith investigation. I think that was extremely helpful, especially for, very, very much so. I mean, you pointed out things that, because when I first skimmed through it, I didn't catch a lot of that stuff, like the 1999 new case number by Prater. Oh my God, that was huge to me. So, thank you for.
I'm a huge fan of Dan Bongino.
Yes.
Early on in his podcasting career, he would relate things in law enforcement terms. And one of the things that he always said was, as an investigator, always remember the names and always remember the dates. If you can remember those two things, you'll start seeing patterns when they show up again in other places.
Yeah, that sounds logical. Yeah, 1990. David Prater, I think most of us familiar with Oklahoma City, we all know that David Prater has been dirty. Blair, maybe not comfortable making a comment about it, but we know how dirty David Prater was, and throughout, in my opinion, if you were to ask me, throughout his entire career as DA, police officer, he's got dirt on him way back, years back. So a couple of things I would recommend. Dirty David. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Under your scars. Dirty David. Definitely, look more into David Prater. I do have a video or two about him in my way back in the earlier first year or so. So it might not even be as accurate as I could now, but also, I really strongly suggest try to just get past the name of the author and read Death and Justice by Mark Furman. That's where Cherie and I have gotten a lot of our information, was based on his research that he writes in that book. And his Furman's book, Death and Justice, it's talking about the death penalty or the death row issues in Oklahoma. And Prater's name is there in there, Bob Macy, Bob Bemo, or whatever his name was. All those people, they're all in that book. Read the book. It's definitely worth it. I think you'll enjoy it and find it very informative. Gosh. So yeah, we've been over 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I know Cherie's got to be tired. She's probably got to get up for work in the morning. And I'm going to try to do some editing now that my mind is a little more clear. And hopefully everyone has found this news today from the United States Supreme Court as good as we have found it to be, and have some hope for Richard Glossip's future based on that decision.
I tell you what, I've seen Sotomayor write a number of opinions where she was upset about something. I have never seen her out and out call out a prosecutor like she did in her opinion today. Never.
I was surprised.
The quote, I actually wrote it down. In her opinion, and quoting, when said that the prosecutors in Mr. Glossip's case, quote, violated their constitutional obligation to correct false testimony.
So I was muted. Yeah. I was kind of surprised. I really was.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, that's judge speak for you suborned perjury.
Yes. Those are pretty harsh words, honestly. But truer words were never spoken.
But she doesn't understand that that's just how it works in Oklahoma County.
Yeah.
But hopefully not true. Much longer or no longer.
Was she already on the bench when it went up for the 2015 decision? I don't remember if she was on the bench or not. I know Ginsburg was still on the bench that time.
I don't remember. Honestly, I wasn't involved in any kind of anything regarding anything in 2015. So I was nothing. I mean, I didn't care about anything other than my family and work and, you know, that kind of stuff. But none of this was ever on my radar at that point. So I wouldn't even begin to know. But yeah, today, great news today. And like Cherie says, I have them all recorded. I've read the chapters. I think we've gotten through chapter 10, and the reading of Death and Justice is in Discord, in my Discord. So if you want to just listen to, me in my very early days of, recording and stuff like that, I do have the first 8, 9, or 10 chapters of Death and Justice that I've read in my Discord. So, you could always just go and listen to that too, if you want to. It's my own version of Audible.
I just looked. It's a chapter. You're up. You finished chapter 10. You're right.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Cherie mentioned that we need to finish reading it and uploading it for the Discord, and she's right. I do. We need to do that.
And we talked about. I just looked. You commented in 22 that we're going to read The Cadaver King and the Country Dentist.
Oh, did I say that? Oh boy.
Yeah, we're gonna get busy.
Yeah, those things are completely off my radar now, unfortunately. But yeah, so many other things now that I'm far more aware of and more, dedicated to. But someday maybe, just like the book I'm writing of my own autobiography or whatever it is. Anyway, Rick, thank you so much for presenting everything that you did. Cherie, thank you so much for always being able to contribute and share information that I can't remember where it is or that I even knew it once before. And your memories of different things are so helpful and beneficial to me. Uh, uh, you might be older than me, but your memory is much better than mine.
2 days. That's it, lady.
Anyway, so we're going to let you guys go. Check out Kurt Uncivil Law, and find the spot where I hijacked his live stream today, and listen to what parts he reads of the Supreme Court's decision, his comments about it. Read the Reed Smith investigation that we've posted several times, I think, now in the chat, and check out Death and Justice, my version of Audible, the first 10 chapters in my Discord. And I think I, believe it or not, don't have anything else to say, which is amazing. Final comments, Rick?
My suggestion would be read the Reed reports.
Yeah. Very thorough
There's
information.
also an amica brief, amica brief, however you say it, by he used to be a U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of New York, and his name escapes me. It starts with a C. That was filed with the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals. That is also worth reading in connection with the case.
Would you find that on the Supreme Court's, on Richard Glossop's page?
No, you'd have to go to the record, the filings with the OCCA.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Because he specifically filed it with the OCCA, not SCOTUS.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, Reed Smith investigation, the best source right now for the best information about Richard's case. Cherie, any final comments, my sweet sister?
Oh, I'm glad we did this. It was worth talking about and celebrating.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everyone who, took the time to jump in tonight, as we did this very rare and impromptu live stream, not having to do with Daniel. We'll get back to, obviously, talking about Daniel on Sunday. And until then, peace out.